ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad show starts now.
And welcome in, Bills Mafia. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry Ostrowski on Bills Squad. We're back for another episode to chat with you all things Bills. We got big news to get to. The Bills have been selected for Hard Knocks. The Tush Push Ban fails. The Protector of the Year award is created by Dion Dawkins, at least as part of his idea. And much, much more to get to. Conversation on Keon Coleman, what he has to do going forward, and your comments throughout. So happy to have you with us once again. And here we go. Bills Squad underway. Gentlemen, howdy. Congratulations. Hard Knocks, right? We made it. We made it. This is something I've wanted for the Bills for quite some time, just because any access is good access, right? We all love this stuff. We all eat this stuff up, and we're going Hard Knocks August 5th. So let's go.
I'm excited. I really am. I know that there's a lot of varying opinions on this, and I cannot wait to hear what Jerry has to say about this. But before Jerry squashes my excitement, I want to go ahead and say that I am excited. I love access. I love everything to do with football, the Bills, and we're going to get unprecedented looks at everything that goes on. We've never seen Brandon Beane cut a player. We're going to see it. We're going to see Sean McDermott leading team meetings. We're going to see those interactions, that locker room camaraderie that everybody raves about. We're going to get a chance to see that. I can't wait for it. And as for the idea that this is going to be a distraction, someone's going to have to sell me on that, because I don't think the Bills are going to do a thing different. They're going to practice like they always do. They're going to have meetings like they always do. And whatever the Bills' fate is this year, whatever it is, Super Bowl champs, bounce in the playoffs, miss the playoffs, I promise you, when that day comes, not a single person's going to be saying, boy, if they weren't on Hard Knocks this year, this would have been different. We'll talk about it now because it's May and you have to. But when it's all said and done, not one person is going to realistically, credibly say the results of this season was impacted because Hard Knocks was there.
You know, I find it interesting for a franchise that has been so, I guess, lack of better term, secret squirrel over the past so many years. They've been very buttoned up, very tight on information, not a ton of availability. And I talked with Jeremy about this, texted with him the other day. Over the last 12 months, it seems, especially the last 6 months, there seems to have been kind of a switch in the building. Tons of availability from Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. McDermott doing a bunch of media availability where we're so used to seeing him on Zoom behind his desk, right, behind a closed door. Now he's out there in the forefront. I don't know if this is because of the new stadium, or maybe we've tried it one way for so long and maybe we believe there's all this false narrative about us. Now all of a sudden we've decided to put everything out there. And I think the appearance on Hard Knocks falls right in line with what we've seen out of the franchise the last 6 to 12 months. They're wanting to be more open. They're wanting to show fans more of an inside look of what they do, and the fact that they're not cold or calculated type people, that they actually have personalities and things. The first thing that I thought of was, I don't believe it's going to be a distraction for this team. I mean, Josh Allen he's a goofy dude. He has a lot of fun. And this isn't out of the ordinary for him. This is what he normally does. Dion Dawkins, I'm sure, will be the Vince Wilfork of the Bills version of Hard Knocks. I'm sure that Dion's going to be showing up in some interesting outfits and having a good time with it, because we know how Dion is. So there's a lot of personalities there. But yeah, I think this is great for the fan base. It's great for the Bills, because as much of Buffalo being a small market team, and you get to see a lot of the people in public in Buffalo. I mean, that's one thing that I liked about being in Buffalo. It wasn't, you were part of the community, where it's a lot easier there as opposed to like a Dallas or a Philly in those areas. But yeah, the fan base is really going to get an inside look at it. I'm excited for it. I don't think it's a distraction. Obviously, they haven't had this sort of availability for so long, and same results. So what makes this any different, right?
Yeah. I think, Jerry, you might be able to speak to this. When I think about it being a distraction, I think that in the modern day in the NFL, we think of more attention as a distraction, right? It's just a
Right.
catch-all term. Shedeur Sanders' draft stock was going to be a distraction for the team that drafted him, and Tim Tebow. And what that means is more media, more questions. The coaches want to deal with it. I'm busy. But the other part of it that I think about is, don't teams have millions of distractions that the outside public never finds out about? Like, dealing with distraction feels like it is probably very normal actually inside the locker room.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. There's things that go on in the locker room that nobody knows about. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. I would have to think, to me anyway, I'm curious to see the angle that this franchise takes with this. Do they really go over the top, and does McDermott try to come out of character and be, a Rex Ryan type, or, all of a sudden all these rah-rah speeches and every other word's a cuss word, and we're the toughest SOBs in the league. But I go back to what you said, and it's quite simple that success brings eyes, right? This franchise has been successful, so there's a ton of attention on it. There's a ton of attention on it every year. Hard Knocks is not going to give them anything that they haven't already been dealing with because of the success that this franchise has had. So now fans just have a chance to see the behind the scenes look. And I think it's awesome for the place.
Well, we got to remember that the Buffalo Bills are a football team, but they're also a brand. I mean, what an opportunity for the Buffalo Bills brand when you consider everything that's going on, when you have the NFL MVP in Josh Allen that's getting ready to marry a famous actress and singer. And, you're starting to get some of the bigger personalities in the league, like Dion Dawkins as an offensive lineman, and how he's emerged in that regard, and the success. And Sean McDermott's doing snow angels on the sideline. And, even the interview that he had with Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo was as candid as you're ever going to hear Sean McDermott talking about his experiences at the ball field and conversations he's having with people. And it just feels like more and more of the personality of this organization is coming to the limelight. New stadiums coming. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. You are in every way other than winning the Super Bowl. You are in the limelight of the NFL. The Bills are one of the faces of the league. Josh Allen is arguably the face of the league. And this is huge for the brand. And I talk to people all the time I talked to somebody yesterday from Edmonton, and they're a Bills fan. Why are you a Bills fan? Josh Allen. Like, you got to capitalize on this opportunity that you have. And I think this is a great step in that direction to further expand this Buffalo Bills brand.
This is a move that I would have expected if Kim Pegula was healthy and still around the team. I thought that when she was part of the franchise before the tragic incident she had, this team was going to another level in marketing and availability and the things that they did. She embraced social media. She embraced content creation, all those different things. So Hard Knocks to me is something that she would have done when she was, unfortunately left the franchise because of her situation. I thought that franchise took a big dip in that area. Maybe this is a thing that will get the Bills back rolling again, as far as, the new age 2025 of how we market teams and how we make ourselves and put ourselves out there.
I think one thing I like to say about McDermott a lot, and Bean too, to a degree, these two have done a good job of being the front door of the franchise. Think back to the days of Rex and Marone and all that. And had the Bills been on Hard Knocks when Rex is here, they're a sideshow team, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke. And I think about the evolution of Hard Knocks. I can't remember every year they've been on there, but some years it'd be about, Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell holdouts or whatever it might be. Last year it's the Bears. What's the Bears story? Well, let's hope this all comes together. We're a team on the rise. What's the Bills story? This grade A professional organization needs to get over the hump. That's really it. So I think you come in with the idea of, let me see how they operate over there. And Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are both very media savvy. As you point out, guys, like, why has McDermott changed the way he's been viewed? Maybe the piece from Tyler Dunn 2 years ago, he read it, he saw it, he confronted it and thought, all right, I want to make sure I'm a version of myself that I like, that people can see the true person that I am. And that's why he's decided to kind of let the walls down and just be a guy that goes on, pardon my take, or goes on with Sal and Matt Bovee, like you said. So, I think the Bills are not only professionally suited for this, but the people that are in charge are better suited for this now than they would have been a couple years ago.
I'm kind of I've already been thinking of things that they can do to make this thing spicier. Like, one of my biggest ideas is an off day, like a surprise off day where the guys come into a team meeting and Sean tells them they're taking a field trip. They go outside and load the buses and they rent a movie theater and go watch Sinners as a football team. I think that'd be awesome.
Jeez, Jerry. Jerry. Oh, that was a zinger.
Maybe not, but I kid, right?
Yeah, that could be a little awkward. I think the Bills are also uniquely positioned now in ways that they weren't perhaps earlier in the McDermott Bean era, where there's a lot of things to figure out, like to establish the foundation of the culture that's been built. And maybe they were ready a year or two ago, but they probably got to the point where they're comfortable enough operationally where they can peel back the curtains and show people a little bit more and maybe change some of that perception. I mean, you're even seeing Sean McDermott driving the Zamboni, the videos on that with his Jordans and his orange shoes. Like 6 years ago, you'd have been, and I told you that stuff was going on, you'd have laughed me out of town. But there has been a shift. There has been an evolution, and maybe the timing just finally makes sense. But has it been answered? There's a lot of criteria that goes into which teams are on Hard Knocks, and it's typically you're not eligible if you were a playoff team the year prior. Has it been confirmed yet that the Bills actually volunteered for this? I know that Rich Eisen said that on his show, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Okay, so Rich Eisen did say that. Sal this morning, Sal was on with me on WGR. He said that is not true. They did not volunteer. Rich Eisen did say that, but to his understanding, it is not that way. The reality is the Bills have never, by the old rules, they've never been eligible.
Right.
You can't be a first-year head coach or in the playoffs either of the last 2 seasons. You could opt out. Well, that was the Bills every single year. McDermott's first year, they make so they're finally eligible and cannot opt out, and the league jumps in and says, like, let's do the MVP. So I think it comes at a great time. It comes at a great time. Do you guys have, and by the way, you can fire us a comment. We're going to do a comment section in the final segment of today's show. Do you have a number one player you are hopeful to learn more about, whether it's their process, their personality? Because, Hard Knocks might spend 20 minutes on an episode. You get to know Keon Coleman's order at a burger shop or whatever. Like what player are you hoping to get a little glimpse of through the show?
I think myself, I really want to kind of take a deep dive into Dalton Kincaid. I would like to see that. I mean, we know what Dion's about. I'm sure that they'll show, Hairston and the rookies on defense. I'm sure we'll get an episode where it's nothing but Bobby Babbitt yelling the entire time and running around like a crazy man. So there's a lot of things that I think we see, but as much as Dalton Kincaid being that first round pick and the expectations and everything, we really, at least I don't anyway, I really don't know much about him, what his interests are, what makes him tick. I hope they do at least one episode where they dive into him and just kind of what makes him who he is and learn a little more about him.
I think it's a good call out, man. There's so many ways I could go with this. I think initially about the offensive line in general, and it's a very stable group with a lot of returning players, right? All the top 9, and of course Aaron Cromer. And we hear about the pizza parties, and Dion's obviously become one of the personalities of the league. He's on McAfee the other day talking about drifting like they're best buddies. I mean, it's unbelievable to listen to those conversations. And I'd love to hear more about Spencer Brown and even Osiris Torrance. But I think the name for me that I feel like I'm still a little bit unsure of from a personality perspective, which doesn't make sense to me, is Taron Johnson, who's been like a staple of this organization for a long time. And the Bills have done, I think they've been very deliberate with their own content that they produce to highlight certain players. We've seen even a ton of Christian Benford lately as a guy that's been pretty quiet, or even Terrell Bernard and Khalil Shakir. You've seen more and more on these guys. Feels like Taron Johnson's still that one guy that, I mean, I know he's a good player. The team respects him a ton, but like, what's he like? I want to learn more about him. And do you think we get a little on Matt Milano? Can they pry anything out of that guy? I'm anxious to see what we get from him.
They could have a running joke that, like, here's Matt Milano. He doesn't say much. He just nod at the camera. My name for this is Joey Bosa. I'd like to know about him. There's a guy, name in the league, on a new team, new environment for you, the next stage of your career. I heard someone told me Bosa in town, really kind of nice guy. He plays a lot of golf apparently and just kind of keeps to himself. And like, all right, I'm ready to learn why he chose the Bills, the injuries, what it's been like, what it's like to be in a football family like that. To me, Joey Bosa is a slam dunk guy that I hope we get to see a good chunk of.
I think this conversation is a prime example of why the Bills should be on Hard Knocks this season, because there's the three of us, and in 5 minutes we've already written 3 or 4 episodes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to put a 5-episode or 6-episode season of Hard Knocks together with the Buffalo Bills. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be awesome. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and I agree with Joe what he said earlier. Please, let's not get to the end of the season and decide that, you know, we're going to tie Hard Knocks appearance to like being on the cover of Madden, right? It's not a distraction for these guys. I mean, this is 2025, the NFL. These guys deal with a lot of stuff, and this is a blip in the matrix.
The only way, and it's far-fetched, is could teams gather any intel? We saw a personnel package they did. We saw this or that. It's tough to sneak any of that through because, from what I understand, teams are going to get even more editorial control than they had before because of what happened with the Giants last year.
Right.
You know, the Giants and all the stuff with Saquon Barkley, which I don't think was that damaging. It just got a lot worse once Barkley started to have the season that he had. But could anything sneak through? Or you think the Bills will be pretty solid on keeping that in-house?
I don't know if you guys have heard this story, but when Amazon tried to do their version of Hard Knocks, they had the Los Angeles Rams on. And when the Rams were getting ready to play the New England Patriots, one of the former Rams DBs was with the Patriots and was watching that show, and he could hear in the background audio all the verbiage and checks offensively, and realized they were doing all the same things that they did when he was there. He goes to Belichick, gives him everything, and if you remember, the Patriots were running the same routes defensively that the Rams were running. I mean, they just smashed them. And that was one of the things they talked about after the game was they had that intel off of Amazon and knew what the Rams were going to do before they did it, just through the verbiage and all that stuff. So I think there are things like that happen. But I think in this case, in this instance, especially with the Bills having such editorial control, I don't think you'll have that.
It's funny you asked that, Jeremy. I just watched a clip on Jimmy Johnson admitting that in that the Super Bowl against the Bills, where he was the coach of Dallas, saw the footage of Jim Kelly throwing shuffle passes to Thurman Thomas, something that they hadn't done
I saw that
all season long. And that Dallas was suddenly ready for it. They forced a fumble on one of those plays. And so I'm sure that throughout those examples of that becoming a problem, that the editorial control that the Bills do have, it's on them. They have the opportunity to filter through and make sure that doesn't happen. And so I think the controls are in place. Now do your job and make sure it doesn't happen.
One other fun thing I want to mention. So camp could be about Pittsford and St. John Fisher and all that. The first episode of Hard Knocks is August 5th, and camp will be a week plus old. But it's worth pointing out the Killers have a concert 15 minutes away from training camp during training camp, August 2nd. So, that song that became such a part of Bills Mafia at the stadium, and Dalton Kincaid and Josh Allen and Dawson Knox, and like playing air guitar and singing, they're going to be having a concert on a Saturday when the Bills are at camp. So I'm just going to put that out there as, hey, HBO, maybe get the players to the concert, and
maybe that'll be the second scene right after your scene, which is going to be first on August 5th.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. All right, so Hard Knocks for the Bills, very exciting stuff, right? When we get back, we got to talk about Dion Dawkins, and he has done it again. He has made something else happen. The Protector of the Year award. He said he wanted to do it, and pretty quickly he got it done. So offensive linemen will now be honored in the NFL, thanks in part to the efforts of Dion Dawkins. So the Protector of the Year. We'll give us our thoughts on that. You can give us yours as well, and much more coming up, including your comments. So drop comments, drop questions as we go here, because we'll finish up the show with your comments and questions. It's Bill Squad. Hey, as a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. How does it work? You post your job, and LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And pro tip, the hashtag hiring frame, add that to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So Dion Dawkins, mission accomplished for him, community asset, great left tackle, great personality, and ambassador for linemen around the world here to get protector of the year. He and Andrew Whitworth are the two that kind of really spearheaded this. And we now have an NFL lineman award, which I think everybody thinks is great news.
It's about time. I used to wear a T-shirt all the time back when I played. It had the letters OWUA on the back, which stood for overworked and underappreciated. And that is what you can basically sum an offensive lineman's career up with, 4 letters. And no, I think it's awesome. You know, the only thing that I wonder about is how do you really truly honor one guy when it's a unique position where it's 5 dudes working as one? I know we have the Joe Moore Award in college football. Joe Moore, the longtime offensive line coach at Notre Dame, where they give out a unit award every year. But seriously, I mean, I think this is awesome. Offensive linemen deserve that respect. It's become such a unique skill position. I mean, you look at like the left tackles and some of the stuff offensive linemen do. I mean, it's as unique as it is playing quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it is a different skill set than most positions. So I think it's awesome that they get recognized. I love the fact that Dion spearheaded a lot of this along with Whitworth. And I'm looking forward, and I would not be shocked if Dion was a finalist and or did win the award his first year, because he's played at that level. And anytime the big dudes up front can get some love, I'm all about it.
Yeah, he had a heck of a case this past year to maybe win that award. I think that's definitely going to be the interesting part, is who wins it on an annual basis, because I think that can be a challenging conversation to have. But I'm happy that there is the recognition that will be there and the conversation that will come with it. I mean, I do podcasts all the time. Who's going to win the awards? Checking in on the awards, mid-season checkpoint. Like, now offensive lineman is going to be part of that conversation for the first time ever. And so more shine on these underappreciated players at an underappreciated position. I mean, it's interesting to think about offensive line. It's like the only position in sports where everything you do is pretty much mostly going backwards, right? Like it's not a normal thing that people do. And so I love the shine that they're going to get. I love the debates that are going to happen. There's going to be snubs, and it's about time this conversation came full circle. So shout out to Dion for, being a big part of the reason why.
Do you think when you're looking at the criteria, what formula would you put forward? Does a team have to be a winning team? Does the guy not get beaten for sacks? Is he great in the run game too? Is it an all-around game? Like, you could see how quarterbacks get roped into QB wins, right, and how good their system is. And, man, Joe Thomas had an entire career, Hall of Famer, and his team never won any games. You'd almost have to wonder, if they had this award, how many times would he have won it? Would he have won it every single year? Because I'm sure that people would make the case he was the best, but it's hard not to link an award to success. I think we've kind of seen that through the course of sports awards. They don't like giving it to a guy that's on a team that doesn't win.
I think that's a great question, and I think that you're going to have a panel of people that actually understand offensive line play and can watch tape and give a very good analysis of a player. I don't think this is one of those deals like so many of the college awards are just basically the media votes on it, or somebody brings their buddy into a panel and it becomes a popularity contest. There's a lot of names in the NFL that we don't know and we don't hear about that are playing at super high levels at those positions up front. And so I think it's imperative that however you nominate a final group, you've got to have guys that understand O-line play, that can watch tape and understand and make, Joe, you understand analytics as good as anybody. Maybe there's an analytical thing out there that you can dig up. I know there's sacks and all those different things, but They've got to get people that understand it because it's so unique, and not everybody can look at an offensive lineman and go, man, I mean, he's getting it done. So they have to have some qualified people.
I have to think it's going to be the same group that votes on the other awards and the first team all pros and all that type of stuff. So, and I understand there's a rotating nature to that, right? Like different outlets get a certain amount of allocated votes. And so I do have some concerns about that, Jerry, to be honest with you, but
I do too.
What I do like is that I think there has been some good outlets and like niche analysts out there, like a Brandon Thorne and others like that who do this work. And I hope that it creates even more attention for what they have going on so that they can have the right mindset and criteria and really take it seriously, because it's like you said, it's a different ball game. You could watch offensive line play and think they're not doing the right thing, and they're absolutely doing the right thing. And I would want to know that the people responsible for voting this have a good understanding, where it's probably a little bit more more simple for a casual analyst or fan or whatever to figure out who the MVP is or the defensive rookie of the year. You know, there's nuance here. And I hope that through all of this, not only it's more shine on the players that are, top performers, but just the position in general, what goes into it, and, just the football community in general having a better understanding of what's going on up front.
Right. There's guys like Brian Baldinger that would be somebody that you could go to.
Yeah.
I mean, Whitworth would be a guy that you can go to. I think you have to make this panel O-line friendly. It's got to be O-line guys. But no, I told you guys earlier, in honor of this award, I wore my Trench Mafia gear today. So big props to this. I'm excited about it.
I
Jerry,
wonder if go ahead, Joe.
I'm going to ask Jerry a question. Jerry, like when you think about the great pass protectors of your time, like guys that you played with, guys maybe you played on other teams, or like, what are some of the names of guys during your era that stand out to you as, man, this guy was deserving of the protector of the year?
Well, what I would say is anybody that I watched play Bruce Smith multiple times and have success are guys that I think are, so when I think about those types of dudes, a dude that should be in the Hall of Fame that's not in the Hall of Fame yet, Richmond Webb
yeah.
of the Miami Dolphins. I think about and it wasn't long because he came in kind of in the middle of Bruce's career, but you look at Tony Baselli and the wars that he had against Bruce. One of my teammates is one of the most underrated offensive linemen in the league in his career is John Fina. I mean, Fina was a tremendous pass protector. So there's a lot of guys like that. Obviously, everybody wants to hang their hat on names like, Munoz and those types of guys. But, when I was playing in Buffalo and I watched guys play against Bruce Smith, I knew what Bruce was about. I mean, this is a Hall of Famer. And if you had success against Bruce, so a guy like Richmond Webb, Baselli, those guys were tough.
What I was going to say is I wonder if, Jerry, it's no coincidence that Dion's the one that kind of breaks through. He and Andrew Whitworth, you say it's an underappreciated position. It's also a position that for the majority of the time the NFL's existed, have offensive lineman personalities been able to break through in a way that Dion has? Like, Dion resonates, and Dion gets these spots, and it's almost like there's that extra little bit that they've got to go. Not to say the personalities aren't there. Of course they are. I'm sure they are. And now here's Whitworth, who's on the broadcast, and he's great to listen to, and he's great to hear all this about. And Dawkins, of course, is a guy that, you get to know him, you can't forget him.
It shouldn't shock anybody that offensive linemen make great analysts. Our Wonderlic scores tend to be higher than other positions. Maybe not quite as high as quarterback, but they're usually pretty good. So no, those guys understand the game. And it's funny because if you think about it, it's kind of like learning a defense. I always believe if you're going to learn defense, you learn it from the backside of the defense in, right? And it's the same thing with the offense. If you understand ball and you're an offensive lineman, you learn the game from there back. It's much easier to see the game and understand how everything pieces together. So, I mean, Dion's a big personality. I don't know of anybody else off the top of my head. There's a few offensive line personalities are very few and far between. The ones that usually are pretty vocal are the ones that are pretty damn good, and Dion's pretty good. But I just hope anyway, as a guy that played a lot of years inside, I hope this doesn't become a tackle award.
Okay.
Ooh, there it is.
Okay? I
Here
hope
it
this
is.
does not become a tackle award, okay? Let's, because, hey, when we're watching film, it's real easy to see the guy at the end of the line of scrimmage, right? We see him for half the game because he's going one way. So we see the right tackle, he's prominent half the game. The left tackle's prominent for the other half of the game. So I hope we at least give those inside guys some love that they deserve.
I have good news on that front. All right. Some first article I found, Protector of the Year award candidates. All right. This came from USA Today. And on this list, Trent Williams, Lane Johnson, Penny Sewell, Tristan Wirfs. I know you're waiting, like, where's my guard? Here's Joe Tooney. Okay. Quentin Nelson, Creed Humphrey, Chris Lindstrom. So, the first ever preview of who will win it is you're represented across the board.
But again, those are all known names, right? There's a lot of guys out there that are playing at a high level that we don't necessarily know their names. It's just like we talked about a few shows ago where I know Joe's a little bit nerved up about it, probably not as much as me, Connor McGovern. I mean, I think he does a tremendous job at center, but not many people know his name, right? So hopefully we really, really dig into the tape and give all five guys the same opportunity to win this position, not just two over the others.
Protector of the Year. Excited for it. I mean, I love that, we had our candidates and it took 5 minutes. You're like, well, tackle, guard. I learned today, by the way, I did not know the Outland Trophy is just interior line in college football. Is it tackles too?
I think it's tackles too.
Okay. When I looked it up earlier, because we were trying to find the
Outland's O-line, D-line, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, Outland Trophy is okay.
Or O-line and front seven or something like that.
O-line, D-line, yeah. The point was college football has all these awards, and the NFL had kind of been lagging behind in this department. So anyway, congrats to Dion Dawkins on that. Very cool. All right, when we get back, a quick conversation, a tough conversation I want to bring up about Keon Coleman, who might be a big-time fixture in Hard Knocks. We'll be having eyes on him, what he's doing this season, this offseason, how he returns to the Buffalo Bills. So some numbers on Coleman and what the expectation should be. That's coming up next here on Bill Squad. All right, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Jerry Ostrowski. Jerry, we're in the Trench. Was it Trench Mafia? Trench
Mafia.
Trench Mafia.
It's our O-line group we do every week down in Edmond. Myself and a former Sooner and NFL guy, J.R. Conrad. We do we don't charge kids anything. We bring them in, use it as an outreach and teach all the latest O-line stuff and do a lot of OLP, LaCharles Bentley type stuff down there with different bags and modalities and stuff. So something we do in the off season for the kids.
Can people get a Trench Mafia hat if they want one?
No.
All right. Just
you gotta be O-line and you gotta be in Trench Mafia.
Okay.
That's what JR talks about all the time, because if I just sold Trench Mafia gear, I could probably retire.
People might.
You gotta be part of Trench Mafia to get Trench Mafia gear.
All right. Very good. Very good. On to the conversation, a tough conversation. I told you guys I wanted to get into this because I wanted to get thoughts on this. So I'll bring it to you. Matt Harmon of Reception Perception. He does a lot of wide receiver evaluations, and we all know coming into the season that it's a big year for Keon Coleman's development, what he comes away with. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott expressed they were a little disappointed with the way that he came out after his injury and how he was not really a big contributor for him. So I pulled up a couple of quotes from Harmon. I want to get your thoughts on this about what Keon can do to take that next step, how much is on him, and how much of it is the Bills and what they ask him to do. So here we go. First, quote number 1. Coleman has issues when it comes to getting open against man coverage. He actually rated him in the 3rd percentile beating man coverage. There's an overall lack of play speed as a route runner. The juice doesn't come through. He doesn't explode out of breaks, isn't a refined technician. He maybe gets less raw with time, but I don't see enough nuance, decisive strides, or salesmanship as a route runner to make up for the lack of explosiveness. And he really locks in on the idea that the role the Bills have chosen for him might make it difficult on him, that they like some stuff that he does there, but if you're looking for more from him, that it might be a job change that ultimately brings that out. And I wonder what you guys think about that.
I would agree that I'm sure what Matt's getting at is that he'd be better as a power slot than an X receiver, right?
Yeah.
And I don't disagree. I think for Keon Coleman, his optimal role would be as a power slot versus an X receiver. For the Buffalo Bills offense, I don't know that I agree with that based on the way that they want to use the slot and the options that exist from the slot in Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. So I think you have conflicting avenues there. What's best for Keon Coleman and what's best for the Bills. None of that should surprise anyone if you watch him at Florida State. I mean, Jeremy, how many conversations we have about Keon Coleman on the radio coming on telling you, like, there's things to like here, but he's not a guy that's going to create space for himself as a route runner. Those are just not tendencies that are showing up on film. You never saw a dynamic route runner, especially against man coverage. That was always a concern. So I'm unsurprised that that's true about him as a rookie. Now, I will say, well, there's other ways to do it, right? You don't have to be a dynamic separator against man coverage. And I want to call to everyone's attention Keon Coleman's production weeks 1 through 9. So before the wrist injury, when you measure him against the other rookie receivers, again, the first 9 games this season, Brian Thomas had 595 yards. Malik Neighbors had 557. Marvin Harrison, 445. Ladd McConkey, 440. Keon Coleman, 417. He's on pace with these guys. Like he was performing. He was making plays. Oh, by the way, he was the least targeted of any of those receivers by 12 targets. So he was producing. And I think his redeeming qualities of body control, hands, ball skills, complement some of what Josh Allen can do. And no, you're not going to say, hey, we need you to run this backside dig as the number 1 on a 3rd and 6, and we're going to trust you to get open. That's not he's not your bucket getter.
Right.
Yeah.
But can he be productive and have a role in the offense? Absolutely. We saw it. And then obviously the return from injury, not only was it complicated for him, but at that time you have Amari Cooper back in the mix. You're trying to figure out Mac Hollins' role is shifting, and you're working through injuries with Kincaid. Like the offense moved on. Like they've taken steps without him. It's hard to come back in and kind of regain your role, but the offense was still good. And Keon's been pretty candid about that. He's done some good podcast interviews this offseason that I've enjoyed. So yeah, he is what he is, and he's not what he's not, but it doesn't mean that there's not a path for him to be a useful piece of this offense.
I think it's why the signing of Josh Palmer was so important, because Josh Palmer gives you the things that Keon does not do well, right? Polished route runner, get separation with route running, discipline, can play upfield as well as underneath. And then that puts Keon in a position that lets him do the things that he does well. He's going to be a back shoulder guy. He's going to be a jump ball guy. He's going to be a contested catch guy. And when you see Josh Allen and his style of play and the way he plays, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, he's not necessarily the on-time, small window type guy. He's going to make plays with his feet to give himself time and then get the ball downfield. Keon's skill set, to me, matches that incredibly well, and I think that's why they went out and got him. But you got to have a few other pieces to take the pressure off. That's why I put Josh Palmer on my list in the 10 most important Bills. If he can bring that skill set to the team, it frees up a lot of other areas for these other players. And Keon Coleman, I think, will be the biggest beneficiary of a guy like Palmer if he's successful in this offense. I really do. So, I think the biggest thing for Keon last year was after the injury, it's all part of the maturation process. You got to learn how to be a pro. It's one of the things I say all the time. And coming back from injury and understanding that 85% Keon Coleman's still better than most of the league, you've got to get that in your head and understand what that's all about. College is a little different. They pamper you a little more and things like that. When you're in the league, when you're available, they expect you to be available. They're not really worried about the fact that you've got a wrist injury. You got to figure out a way to produce. And that was the big learning process for him last year. So the Josh Palmer signing, I think, will help him healthy and all that. And I expect a much better year out of Keon.
There's one other thing that he tracked when we're talking about Matt Harmon's evaluation of Keon Coleman. One other thing he tracked that he liked quite a bit was Coleman's success rate on broken plays. And it's funny because, that's not exactly a thing that's on that many scouting reports, but that is definitely part of the Buffalo Bills offense. He had great grades on slants and screens because he's big and strong and he can run a slant really well. And then after that, it's about Josh Allen is rolling to his right. Who's he going to find? Sometimes that's Khalil Shakir, but this year that really might be Keon Coleman. I think Mike Evans had the nickname the Garbage Man or something when he was in college because he's just collecting all the stuff after plays break down from Johnny Manziel. And not to say Coleman's going to be a similar player to Evans, but the idea on broken plays for me I feel like that might make sense. They don't even have to be contested catches. Just, hey, get on the same page with Josh and get to space because he's going to look for you every time.
I think it's the thing we've talked about the last few weeks about Aaron Cromer, right? What do we love about Aaron Cromer? He takes all these guys and their individual talents and doesn't force anybody into a role. And it's the thing that the Bills have done with Josh Allen. They've not forced him to be this on-time, three-step, pat the ball, get it out, all that. They've let him do what he does. And that's that's where the everybody eats thing comes from. And that's why you look at a Keon Coleman coming in. He complements Josh Allen so well. Keon just got to figure a few things out. And that's going to come with time. You don't learn until you're out on the field on game day, getting plays under your belt. I don't care how much you practice, how much preseason you do. You've got to be on the field in game situations. I expect him to be that much better this year. And I think that's been a big deal of the Bills not forcing Josh to be like any other quarterback in the league, just like they've done at other positions.
And what is the phrase they say? Be you with us, right? That's the
right.
the buzz phrase out of One Bills Drive. I was listening to Keon on some podcast interview. I don't remember which one it was, but he was asked specifically about his impact on the scramble drill. And he got into some conversation about how Joe Brady says that, well, we've got Josh Allen as our quarterback. We need to be the best scramble drill offense in the NFL. So it's a very deliberate thing that they practice. So that way, when Josh does get outside of structure, and you can see it in the way that Spencer Brown plays the game. I actually, last night I rewatched the Detroit game in week 15, and you could see some of those moments. Well, actually the bomb to open up the second half to Keon Coleman, right? That was a huge play. You could see there's a very deliberate way in the way that Spencer Brown moves to his right when Josh is going out to his right, and they're very synced up and on the same page. So that way Josh can have the edge if he wants it. And, those escape outlets are there, but also the way that the receivers respond to that. There's very deliberate intent. It's backyard football, but there's intent to what they're trying to do to get to space. And that's a point of emphasis for this offense. And it should be when you have a guy like Josh Allen. And, I think, man, you remember the touchdown throw against the Jets? Was that late in the season? Josh is rolling, just rips it. That stuff, like, it feels random, but it's really not. Like, that's worked on. And I think those flashes that we saw in year one will only get better, right? He's a young man, and he will obviously develop more rapport and chemistry and comfort with what he's doing. And I think that can be even a bigger part of what he gives this team. It was a big part of what Gabe Davis brought this team. And I think Keon Coleman has a lot more appealing traits than what Gabe had.
Yeah, it's funny. Spencer Brown has a definite kind of a sprint out style or sprint out emphasis as the play complex gets moving further along. He gets outside and tries to get that outside shoulder and get everything forced back inside to allow Josh outside to his right, which is why I thought it was so interesting that the Ravens last year, especially that regular season game, did such a good job of eliminating that. And you didn't see more teams try to do that as the season went along, try to take that right side scramble away, or maybe they did and they just didn't have any luck at it. But yeah, you can definitely see it in the way that Spencer Brown plays and the others play as the play stretches along.
Send us a comment. Our final segment, we'll get into some comments from you guys, answer questions, anything you got to throw at us. You can make it here on the YouTube page, and like and subscribe as well. And, of course, subscribe to the Locked On Bills podcast. Before we do that, though, the Tush Push Ban failed. And my favorite thing to point out about this is not something I'm seeing everywhere. It's not often you fail 10 to 22 or 22 to 10. I saw a couple headlines like, oh, Goodell is, swatted away by the owners. He got a lot of support to ban it. 22 teams do want to ban it. It fell 2 votes short. It's a big threshold to get to 75% of the teams. But anyway, it will remain. The Bills voted against it. Curiously enough, the rest of the AFC East voted to keep it, while Josh Allen, quarterback, sneaks it in their face for the next however many years. So Jets, Dolphins, and Patriots opted all to keep it, and ultimately it stays for another year.
Greg Allman of Fox Sports put out a really cool article about the Tush Push and broke it down really well. He talked about last season there were a total of nearly 1,200 plays in the NFL on 3rd and 4th down where teams needed exactly 1 yard to move the chains. And if you look at that scenario, of course, Jalen Hurts had a huge high volume of that, 22 conversions on 3rd and 4th down, and he went 22 of 27. He was 81%. Now, if you look at the other teams, though, Josh Allen was 17 of 18 in those scenarios, 94%. And Bo Nix of the Broncos was 12 of 14 for 86%. Jaden Daniels, a slight quarterback, not a guy you consider this big, strong dude. He actually was a perfect 12 for 12. And if you look at 2023, Josh Allen, again, he edged Hurts out. He was 24 of 27 compared to Hurts's 23 of 27 in those situations. So if you're looking for the NFL's best short yardage teams last year, it wasn't the Eagles and it wasn't the Bills. The Eagles were 76%, Bills 77.3%, but the Commanders were 88% at third and fourth down of a yard or less. They were 38 of 43. So, interesting stuff there. That's why, you look at these numbers, and you just brought it up, Jeremy. It's so interesting to me anyway that the entire AFC East voted to keep it when the team that's really damn good at it voted to get rid of it. So it makes no sense. But yeah, I'm glad it's here to stay. I love Jeffrey Lurie's comments yesterday. I thought it was awesome. He went on an hour-long tirade, and anytime somebody throws shade at Troy Vincent, I have no problem with that.
Oh, interesting.
I just want
we can talk about that off air.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I just want to say I like Adam's theory. If it is a dangerous play, maybe the AFC East voted so Josh would get hurt. That's kind of a funny conspiracy theory there from Adam.
Does it stand for now? Was this too close of a vote for us to just not be spending next off season having the same conversations? Like, no. I feel like it's alive for now, but there's not. You can have a retrial, right, in the NFL. There's no laws against that.
This is the swan song of it. I don't expect all three AFC East teams to vote for it after this year. They have zero success stopping it. This is probably the last year you'll see it, in my estimation.
I think so too.
Yeah, because in March at the owners' meetings, it was 16-16 reportedly. He gained 6 votes in 2 months. He needs 2 more.
Yeah.
And then, to get it back, that to me, that's the big point here. Getting 75% of the votes to get rid of it. That means to bring it back, you'd have to flip everybody all the way back again. The NFL requires a very high threshold to get these rule changes through. The other one that they were talking about that did not do was the playoff seeding change. That one they just pulled, and a lot of the reporting on that is because they're not going to mess with it because an 18-game schedule is not far away. And at that point, they might just revamp a lot of things once they get to 18 games. So no change to the playoffs, no change to the tush push. And there you go. Owners' meetings came and went. We did get a 32-0 unanimous vote on allowing flag football. So, we kicked that around a little bit in a previous show. And I feel like if any of us said, I don't really get it, the league, unanimous to me, sends a big message that the league knows the value here somehow.
Well, I look forward to every press conference for the next 3 months asking every player, you going to participate in the Olympics, right? So we're going to get a good feel for what these guys want to do, but there seems to be a lot of energy for it. And for a guy like Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the league,
right?
For him to be like one of the faces of this is sends a pretty loud signal to me that the players are interested and they're going to do it. And boy, the U.S. better dominate flag football in ways that has the rest of the world screaming mercy.
Well, we're going to have a Canada versus U.S. Gold medal match again, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because if there's any nation out there that could put a flag football team together, especially a league that does the motions to the line and all the the spread stuff that they do, the Canadian game is much more conducive to flag football than the American game, right? So
Josh Palmer be playing for the Canadian team, right?
Right, exactly. That's it. And who else do we have on our roster? We have another player I thought that was Canadian. No, that was Michael Hoyt. He's not going to play flag football.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I think that's what you'll see. It'll be just like hockey. We'll have a U.S. Canada gold medal match.
We'll get off to your comments in a minute here as we wrap things up on Bill's Squad. So if you want to toss a question or a comment in, we'll pull some of the best, answer your questions, and get right back here on Bill's Squad. Time to dip into the comments people sending our way on our YouTube channel, on our live YouTube feed. If you're listening on the podcast, you can subscribe on YouTube and you can like the channel. You can subscribe to the channel as well. You can always get at us live here watching on YouTube, or of course catch it in the Locked On Bills feed. So have put together a series of the best comments that we got over the course of the day, and it starts with a little Hard Knocks recap. First off, gentlemen, what do you think? Bean and McDermott tandem bike. That came in from Walter, the famous Rex and Rob Ryan tandem bike. I don't know. They might get along and squabble like brothers. Maybe they've been together for a long time, these two. That might be one thing that we get, is the two of them discussing players. That's not something we get a lot of, Hey, Brandon and Sean in a room talking about defensive back number 7. I've never seen that before.
Honestly, I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this whole series, is just how those two work together. How do they work together? How do we see a lot of behind the scenes stuff with those two? I don't think any of us really understand just that working relationship. I know they've been together a long time, but how did the dynamics of everyday life with Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott work? I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of that and hope they highlight it.
Yeah, I think that will be interesting. Obviously, McDermott, I think, has a lot of quirks about him, right? With like his breakfast routine and like his workout regimen. And like, I'm excited to see some of that come to fruition and peel back another curtain on Mr. McDermott.
Another comment came in. I love anything to do with the Bills behind the scenes, like the embedded series. I can't get enough of that stuff. At least it's not during the season. That's the other part of this here, where the NFC East is in-season Hard Knocks. Last year it was the AFC North. We know the Bills and Ravens game, I think, was on that version of Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. So in-season Hard Knocks, probably a much bigger distraction than training camp, where, hey, you're here with us in Rochester, and then when we go home, you go home.
Is that what happened to the Ravens last year? Hard Knocks was in their building, and so they couldn't get past the Bills in the divisional round. That was the reason? Was that it?
I think, yeah, I don't know. Something. They did beat them 35-10 the previous time. I don't exactly know how many months they are in for in-season Hard Knocks, but it'll be
until it's over for that team. Yeah, because I definitely watched those Ravens tears after the Bills beat them in the divisional round, so I wasn't going to miss that.
Well, the good news about the Bills anyway is we're talking a very stable, established group of people. This isn't like when we were in the Jets and all the craziness with the Johnson family and Aaron Rodgers and Salah and everything. I mean, it's honestly, this Hard Knocks could be one of the more boring Hard Knocks that we've had. Really, seriously, if the Bills, while they want to be out there, and we've talked about earlier in the show that their concerted effort to put themselves in the media over the last 6 to 12 months, but if they flip the switch and they get nerved up and they have creative control, this could be one of the more boring ones that we've seen as far as the series of Hard Knocks goes.
You wonder, I wonder at least, the James Cook storyline could be one. One of my first thoughts was, all right, will Cook's agent see this as an opportunity to take his story to a bigger stage? And the flip side of that is, does Brandon Bean want to have a calculated message? Will there be a meeting where they're talking about Cook? And yeah, James had a big day of practice today, presuming he's there. Big day of practice today. Anything going on with his agent? Would they have a conversation where Bean could kind of get it out there that he wants everybody to know, love this guy, love this guy, love this guy, but we're not in a position to do that. So while they don't negotiate in the media, we could see a little bit of, I don't want to say performance, guys, but performance, right? This is PR for these teams when you know the cameras are there and you are indeed controlling the message. Right.
It's just like the Wizard of Oz, man. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And I believe that's probably part of the reason why Buffalo, I say that they didn't choose. Now, Rich Eisen says they chose, others say they didn't, but they can control the narrative in this case. And being on Hard Knocks would probably behoove James Cook to make sure he's in camp, because the other 31 teams in the league are getting an in-depth look at you. And if you're wanting to move on and make this kind of money, it's probably smart for you to be there and working and showing what type of teammate you are.
Bills mandatory mini camp June 10th through 12th. If James Cook is there, then you would have to believe that he's at training camp. And so I think there's a lot of motivation for whatever the 2025 plan is, whether that is to come to terms on a deal or, hey, we're not going to get a deal done. You got to play out the year. That's going to be resolved in advance of training camp. So that way it's not this lingering situation where everything is about what James Cook is doing and what the team is saying about where he is or where he isn't.
Yeah. If he's not at OTA or whatever, mandatory minicamp, like dial up the intensity.
Yeah.
If they do that, the people at HBO are popping bottles of champagne.
Oh, they love it.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. We got one. We got one.
Yep.
All right. Chris texts into the show. Which of these three guys is most likely to wear Jordans?
Jerry for sure. 100% Jerry. You got a pair, don't you?
I've got 3 pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
All right.
I've never owned a pair for sure.
And I wore a pair of brown ones when my son got married. I actually wore them with my suit. Jordans. Which one of these guys? I think it'll be Bean and McDermott both. I think they'll both wear Jordans.
Yeah.
Heck, I wouldn't doubt if Terry Bagula rolls up in a pair of Jordans.
I don't think Brandon Bean's got them. I've seen his shoe game. They're very much either dad sneakers or like just regular walking shoes. McDermott's the one that's got a little flash with the shoe game.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I see the Jordans or sneakers with a suit, I think that looks so cool, and I think I can't do that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
Why can't you do it?
I just don't. I feel like I am not cool enough, or it doesn't look cool on me. I see other people. I think, man, that looks cool. I know I can't pull it off.
Jordans are an attitude, man.
I know
it's an attitude. You just have to have it. And what's funny is I hadn't owned a pair of Jordans since I was 14 or 15 years old, and then decided to get some. And yeah, I mean,
Jerry, 100-game starter in the NFL with kids that are in college. Jeremy and I got young kids. We're not sure about what's cool or not. We're just trying to get to bedtime every day, my guy.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
I understand.
One more before we get out of here. John chimes in from Cambodia. Just want to say we're global. We got Bill's squad being watched live in Cambodia, 11:15 p.m. So, hey, feel free to along the way chime in from wherever you may be, right, in the U.S., in the world, because that's the beauty of this. Bill's Mafia goes everywhere.
It's Asia, right?
Cambodia.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Way out there. 11:15 p.m.
Thailand.
Jeremy, speaking of style, though, and pulling things off, Jeremy, I got to ask, are those golf tees in your hat?
Jerry, I'm glad you asked because I wore this hat for you because, yes, this is a Bills hat that has a tee holder. Oh, wrong side here.
Yeah.
Yeah, holds your golf tees. It's a Bills rope hat that has a tee holder in it. I put the tees in just for you to see if you would notice.
I've been looking at them the whole time, wondering what the heck those were. I'm not going to lie to you.
You're going to sit here and tell me you can't wear Jordans, but you can wear a hat with golf tees in it?
Well, I never actually wear it with the tees in it. My brother-in-law got this hat for me, this Bills hat. It's sweet. But if I wore this golfing and put tees in it, it'd have dirt all over it. So, it's too
swaggy,
nice.
Man.
It's too nice of a hat. Too nice of a hat. All right. Well, off to Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Safe weekend. Happy weekend. Hopefully you guys get good weather at wherever you are. We here in Buffalo are currently being besieged with a rain that is biblical. So happy Memorial Day to you guys.
Jerry,
and
what are you grilling? What are you grilling on Monday? I know that's
well
spread. Yeah,
I will have my hasty bake fired up. I know I'm doing at least a pork shoulder. Probably going to do a brisket and a pork shoulder. I'll have to do some chicken for my wife because she doesn't eat red meat. I'm thinking maybe some jalapeno poppers, although I might do those the second day when I have leftover brisket and I can mix them in. So, yeah, we're going to throw down Memorial Day, but the best thing about it's my second favorite holiday of the season. July 4th is my first. Memorial Day is the second because there's nothing better than a Sunday of over 1,600 miles of car racing from 7, 8 in the morning until midnight. And I will be in front of a TV all day long watching them, watching all the races. But no, honestly, folks, enjoy your barbecues, enjoy the car races, all those different things, playing golf, being on the lake or the ocean, but understand what this holiday is about, honoring our troops and what they've done for us. And I think it's incredibly important. And just absolutely love Memorial Day. Spent probably, Joe, 8 or 9 Memorial Days in a row in Charlotte when we used to go to the Coke 600 every year. So spent a ton of time in Charlotte over Memorial Day. Speed Street is a blast. If you can get a hall pass, Joe, you ought to go down there and check it out. Smash Mouth is playing Saturday night.
Is that it?
Yes.
I've been to the Speed Street a few times. Jerry, I must live less than 5 miles away from Charlotte Motor Speedway. I've never been. I've never been, but I do know that on race day, I very strategically don't go anywhere near it. That'll mess up your commute for sure.
Can you hear it from your house?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
We are going to go. We're going to sit down.
I'm only going if you're taking me. I don't know.
We're going to sit down at some point. We're going to make a plan and we're going to go because you have to. And NASCAR is actually making a resurgence. It's getting popular again. Maybe it will never get as popular as it was in the 90s or early 2000s, but it's making a resurgence again. And we will go and we'll wear our headsets.
Oh, you have to.
Where we can to a race, Jeremy. I would have lost a lot of money. If
Jeremy, you can go too, man. I've got 4 headsets.
I went to the Michigan 400. The first year we bought our camper that we take to Bills games, we took the camper out to the Michigan 400, and yeah, I mean, you wear headsets because it's so loud. Like that sound goes through your chest, it goes through your body. It is it's like fighter jets are going by so close to you. It's incredible.
So my headsets are like this. So not only do we tag in the driver frequency so you can listen to the drivers, you can also get the radio version of it, but then also you can press a button and we can talk to each other through the headset. Yeah. So I've been to over half of the NASCAR tracks in this country. I'm a huge race fan, and Charlotte Motor Speedway is one of my favorites, and the 600's a blast. Listening
to the drivers on the headset, we had a great experience with that because the Busch race was the day before, and we could hear the Chase. Who are the two brothers? Chase and I forgot their names. I'm sorry. Anyway,
the Labonte brothers,
maybe.
Elliott, right? Chase Elliott and
there's Labonte brothers. There was the Burton brothers.
Burtons. I think it was the Burtons.
Okay.
So anyway, whoever it was, one of them is nice and one of them everybody hates, whichever pair of brothers that is.
That's probably Jeff.
We could hear like there was a pass on the last lap, and I had the right headphone, the right channel dialed up, and it was just as he overtook the guy on the back stretch, and then listening to him scream to his crew as they crossed the finish line. It was so cool to be able to hear that. So
one of the greatest things I've ever heard at a live sporting event happened at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Somebody dumped somebody into the fence, somebody popular, and there was a ton of booing, and the fans were going nuts. And the announcer comes over the loudspeaker and goes, "Can we please refrain from throwing beer cans and chicken bones onto the racetrack?"
Yeah.
So one of the greatest things I've ever heard at a live sporting event.
Thanks to the commenter in the thread. It was Kyle and Kurt Busch. What was those two?
That's it.
One of those two. So anyway, also, did we lay out the groundwork for future Grills Mafia segments? I mean,
oh boy,
I'm
in on this. Yeah,
smoking some pork shoulders.
I should just probably be the host of that segment because it's not fair that if we judge each other.
Listen,
I'll smoke all two.
Here's what we'll do when we get to the season. We'll do Thursday recipes and we'll share all right, what you grilling up for Baltimore, what you grilling up for Miami.
If I was to guess, Joe's probably like a sausage aficionado. He can grill some sausage and stuff.
And pork.
Jeremy, you're probably doing like butter bath steaks with rosemary brush and all kinds of stuff like that.
I love a pork shoulder.
Nice.
The last pulled pork I made for a party was the best I've ever made.
Yeah.
Like it takes time, to dial it in.
You Traeger it?
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, all right, happy Memorial Day, everyone. Jerry's right to point out the cause, of course, why we celebrate and why we remember. So, thanks for joining us, and have a great holiday weekend. Go Bills!
Go Bills!
Much love. Go Bills!